everybody, and welcome back to Mr. Miller's Art Room. Today we are going to be talking about shapes. Now, earlier in some other videos, you probably would have noticed that I talked about lines. Before we talk about shapes, let's talk about lines. First of all, a line is just a one-dimensional pathway, a point from A to B. And there's a couple of lines that we utilize in art. And we utilize a horizontal line. We can use vertical lines. We can use diagonal lines. Sometimes we can change the line direction with a curve. Sometimes we can make the line change directions very quickly. This is also known as a zigzag. And sometimes we have something called a dot line or a broken line, which looks a little like this. If you've ever done a connect the dot page, this is what you would have been utilizing.
That is all well and good, Mr. Miller, but what can we do with these lines?
Good question, my mischievous monocled mate. What we can do is we can use these lines to create shapes. A lot of you who have been working with me before would remember us talking about this earlier in the year. So, what am I going to do with these shapes? Well, I can use a variety of lines to make shapes. I could use 1, 2 vertical lines, and I can use 1, 2 horizontal lines to create a square. Now, as far as diagonal lines, watch what I can do with those. If I draw a diagonal line here, and I draw a diagonal line there, and then I connect the two together with a horizontal line, I can make a triangle.
That's all well and good there, Mr. Miller, but what can you do with these curved lines?
Curved lines you can do a lot with. I use curves all the time. Now, if you take a curved line and you don't stop the curve, you just keep the curve going and don't stop, eventually it comes back around and touches the same line, making...
By George, I think that's a circle!
Quite right. So, what can we do with these shapes after we make them? Well, we can certainly color them all in with the same color, like I'm doing right here. Now, I used to have a hard time staying inside the lines when I was little, so if you are working on this and you have a hard time staying inside the lines, that's no big deal. We're going to get better at that as time goes along. But we don't have to just keep using the same color. And what's more, we can actually use our lines to add something called a pattern.
A pattern? What, pray tell, is a pattern?
Patterns are things that repeat in a predictable way, which means that once you see the pattern, you'll understand what thing comes next. Let's take a look at patterns with numbers. If I were to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, what numbers would you think would come after that?
Well, I would probably say 7, 8, 9, then 10.
You'd be correct. 7, 8, 9, and 10. So numbers can have patterns. What if we said colors have patterns? What colors are here?
Well, I see red, yellow, blue, red, yellow, blue, red.
And what colors do you think would come next?
I'd say yellow, then blue.
Well, you'd be correct. Yellow, then blue would come next. Finally, even shapes can have patterns. Let's see what this pattern is.
Well, I see a triangle, circle, square. Triangle, circle, square.
And what shapes do you think would come after that?
Well, I can reasonably be assured to say that a triangle, a circle, and a square would come next.
And that is what a pattern is. So how can we use this in our art? For instance, if I chose three colors, magenta, yellow green, and this, what is this, wild watermelon, and I made a pattern with this, I might do something like this. I might color a little bit of my triangle in with the magenta, then go to my yellow green, then go to my wild watermelon, and then I would go back to the magenta. In this way, I can make a pattern of these three colors that are predictable. So predictable, somebody could come up from behind me and finish my triangle.
How would you use shapes then in order to make a pattern?
Excellent question. Well, first what I would do is I'd choose maybe a couple of different colors, maybe brown and pink. And then I would decide what shapes would look great in this circle. Should I do some squares in my circle or more circles in my circle? Well, you know what? Let's keep it with the same theme. I'll do brown circles, kind of like chocolate chips. I like drawing my shapes first. Then I'm going to color this in, and color this in, and color this in. I like going all the way to the edge of my shapes. Now that we have a circle with a pattern of brown circles in there, I'm going to use my pink to color in the rest of the shape and give it more visual interest.
My word, Mr. Miller, these are fine shapes and patterns. Are these the only shapes we can use?
Not at all. You can use any kinds of shapes you want. Add a whole bunch of shapes to your artwork, and we'll see what it looks like. Once you've drawn at least 7 different shapes with patterns of different colors inside each of those shapes, you're going to be good to go. If you do more, even better. Thank you very much for watching this, everybody, and let's get to work.